Uh, it should be live? Huh. It's not live on my end. Is it glitching again? Okay. Okay, awesome. Now I had to refresh the page like 3 times. All right. Looks like we are live. I could see it. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the long awaited Lucky Charm podcast, episode 2, where we are going to be talking about the season 1 episodes of Miraculous. And we're going to lay it all down there, the pros and cons of the episodes of season 1. And of course, I am joined here with Chris, Kevin, and of course, my very special guest for this live stream series, Guy, aka the Cartoon Hotspot.
Hi.
Hello.
This is going to be so exciting to be talking about. So I'm curious, where do you guys want to start? Like, which season 1 episode do you want to start? We can go all over the place since they tend to do that in
How about
Miraculous.
we start off with the very first episode of season
Yeah,
one?
let's start with stormy weather.
Yeah, stormy weather.
Ooh, I'm curious to know what you guys' thoughts on that.
I think stormy weather is one of, if not the best, no, it's the second best premiere for in Miraculous Ladybug season. So the first best premiere for the seasons was The Collector from season 2. But I think Stormy Weather takes second place as the best premiere to start to open up a season of Miraculous Ladybug. Like everything was just so well molded and crafted together to make it as a premiere. Like the animation was up there, the introduction to Marinette and Adrian, and just who they are, despite the fact we didn't really know how they got the miraculous in the first place. Um, the fight scene, the structure of the episode in terms of how each episode was going to be. So the monster of the week sort of formula. I really love Stormy Weather. Like it's just a fun rewatch.
Yeah, and just adding to that, it was nice just to see how Hawkmock, the villain, like how he did his stuff, like how he played into people's fear and anger, and how he acclimatizes them, doing emotional manipulation versus physical manipulation.
Right.
hmm For sure. I have to say, Stormy Weather is one of my favorite villains in season 1. You know, one of my favorite akumatized villains. I think it's like the
Mm.
powers too. Like we all know weather can get really scary when it gets really intense, you know, like when we see like tornadoes and thunderstorms and all that. And stormy weather really encapsulates that, you know, that scary aspect of weather. And it was a very genius type of akumatized villain for sure.
I agree.
Yeah, and
And
adding to that, now try having a voice in your head saying, "I am Hawkmock, and I know your fears and anger, and I alone can fix it here. I will now akumatize you and go destroy them."
mhm. Because if my memory serves me right, in that episode, wasn't it like she ended up not becoming the weather girl? That's how she ended up
Yeah,
getting
that's why. So that's what Hawkmock played into. It's like, okay, I sympathize with you, and I alone can fix it, but you have to do something for me. Go destroy the miraculous and all that.
Mm, yeah. Because I forgot the other girl she was competing with to be like the weather girl, I think. I think
I
that's what
think
it
her name
was.
was Mireille.
Oh, Murray.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think the
it's like
case was that sorry, I think the case was that everyone knew Mireille was gonna win, so Aurora was the underdog. And she ended up not winning, um, as predicted by everyone. And then she just got upset because she believed that she deserved it more. So Hawkmoth, played on that insecurity and anger and used it to his advantage.
For sure. Like I actually like how season 1 as a whole really, because I remember when I went to like the Miraculous panels, they actually said the reason that um that there was no starting up the story in season 1. It was just, more the origin story
Hmm.
kind of introduce that. They said the reason they did that is to introduce it in a way where we understand the structure of the show. I remember when I went to like the Miraculous panels at San Diego Comic Con, they were talking about stuff like that, where they're like, and as we all know, Miraculous is infamous of releasing their episodes way out of order. So, um, like for sure, like I said, I think it's a great way to do that because I know I watched the other episodes in different languages before I watched it in English. So, so I can see why they did this structure, in every episode so we understand. Oh, okay, someone is very disappointed, in some way. Hawkmoth emotionally manipulates that individual he wants to akumatize.
Hmm.
Akumatizes the villain. And then, of course, we kind of see Adrian and Marinette's, school lives, right? And then we kind of see that, there's like a side story going on with that. And then, of course, boom, villain appears. It's like, let's transform. All right, let's fight them. So I think, although it was kind of a little bit weird, but at the same time, I think it's a great way to introduce the show, to understand the structure. It's kind of like Scooby Doo, if you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
it didn't really have a story, but they have this structure in the way they want to present it, where everyone can understand. Oh, okay, so there a problem that arises with an individual. Hoffman decides to emotionally manipulate them and basically akumatize them to get the ladybug and cat miraculous. so so I think that's kind of how I saw season 1, and
It
being able to know the behind the scenes stuff behind that.
Yeah, it's easy to let slide because hey, first season, that's fine. Also, I love the play that they made on the whole Aurora Borealis thing, like Aurora Borealis. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Mm.
I actually think the structure works well in its favor. I think having them just push out episodes without us realizing, like without us knowing, oh wait, how did Adrian and Marinette get their miraculous in the first place? I feel like if they just went the conventional route where they had origins first, after you watch Origins, you don't really need to watch the other episodes of season one. You can just jump straight ahead to season two, or you can just watch Origins and then Volpina, and then get to season two, and then continue from there. But I feel like season one, there's just such like an amount of nostalgia looking back at season one because I don't know about you guys, because Leah, you mentioned how all the episodes came out in a random order as usual, typical miraculous style. But I was looking at like the I was trying to remember which order I was watching the episodes back then, and I was like what 13 at the time season one came out. But I distinctly remember Stormy Weather being first and the Bubbler coming out like a couple of weeks later or something, and then like Eve Illustrator and Lady Wi-Fi. But like according to Thomas Astruc, the order in terms of like continuity is Stormy Weather, then Eve Illustrator, then Lady Wi-Fi, then Princess Fragrance, Dark Cupid, Mr. Pigeon, Pixelator, Copycat. Like they're all in like different orders, and I was just so curious as to why like we have one order and it's like episodic, so you can literally just watch any episode and you still understand what's going on. You don't need to watch the previous episode to understand. And yet Thomas Astruc has a completely different order in terms of like the actual events of the series in season one. Like you need to watch it or it makes sense in this order. So like after Stormy Weather, the next thing that happens is the events of Evil Illustrator. And I just find that really interesting.
Yeah, like for sure. Like yeah, like it because from season 1, I remember I watched it in Korean with English subs. And then I watched a different episode in French, and I'm just like, when are we getting the English one?
I think we all felt that way.
Yeah, like this show was skyrocketing when the first season was like slowly releasing, and I'm just like, where's the English dub? Like I'm watching this in different languages. Like, but that is quite interesting, Guy. So according to Thomas Struck, he was like saying stormy weather is chronologically first, and
Right.
then the Evil Illustrator, then Lady Wi-Fi, then Princess Fragrance, and then Dark Cupid, Mr. Pigeon. Yeah, but chronologically, it should have been the Origins two-part episode because that's literally what introduces everything. So
Right.
I found that's quite an interesting thought process, I would say, from Thomas Struck on that.
Do you guys
Ooh.
remember that Miraculous season 1 originally premiered on Nickelodeon?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
so crazy because, like, if you've been watching Miraculous um as early as season 1, which not much people have, but I know you guys have, like, it was originally on Nickelodeon and not Disney Channel as we know it. But like, the reason why it's not Nickelodeon stopped, airing Miraculous Ladybug is because, one, they kept putting the episodes at times when nobody was awake. They'd put it at like 7 a.m. in the morning on Sundays, and no one wakes up that early except for me. um, or right before like school starts for high school kids and everything. So I think they just got like upset with um Nickelodeon, and just it just felt like Disney would do Miraculous more justice, and I completely agree. I think Nickelodeon kind of fumbled majorly with Miraculous Ladybug. It could have been so big on their
yeah,
end.
I agree on that.
Yeah. That definitely played a factor where it's like, 'cause, I do remember it being on Nickelodeon, and it's like you said, yeah, they put it at time slots where it wasn't very convenient, where it wasn't getting the exposure it was,
Mm.
doing, and then I know Disney took over, and I'm like, Disney does a lot better job.
Yes, for sure.
Ooh, how about let's talk about the Evil Illustrator episode. I'm curious to know your guys' thoughts on this one.
Evil Illustrator is actually one of my favorite episodes in the entire series. I don't know why. I really liked the episode structure. I like the fact that I think it was the first one of the first few episodes where Marinette had to rely on herself to kind of save the day ish, I guess. So after, like, facing the evil illustrator as Ladybug, she decides, okay, I'm gonna use my skills as Marinette and use the fact that Nathaniel has a crush on me to my advantage. And what's really like interesting about that episode is when she does that, even if she's saving the day, Nathaniel, or the evil illustrator rather, he tells her like, you're just like Chloe, and she gets so mad at it, and it's just so like ironic, the fact that she had to kind of act in a way that Chloe acts just to save the day. And I find that so interesting, and it's also quite interesting why I really like the evil illustrator. It's because I think it was the first Marishat scene we got in the entire series, and I'm a huge Marishat shipper. And the fact that like Cat Noir was trying his best to just, you know, impress Marinette, and I was like, does he kind of like Marinette? Because we barely got any Adrianette in season 1. It was just mainly Marinette like stuttering and following him around or whatever. So seeing the reverse of like Cat Noir trying his very best to just impress his classmate, unbeknownst to her, it was just so interesting.
Like for sure. Like I think it was I think it's quite interesting how like yeah, like for sure. It's like the very first exposure we get to the Mary Shat ship and
Hmm.
stuff. And a- and it's I think it's like I think canonically this is like the first supervillain that had a thing for her, I think. Because
Right.
Nathaniel had a thing for her. But you gotta admit, he actually he draws amazing. I'm just like, I wish I could draw.
I was actually impressed when I saw that.
I was like, this looks amazing. I wish I could draw comics or manga like this. and and stuff. So this one was like, I think what was I think the funny thing in this episode, because I think they were like in, was it like science class, I believe, with Miss Mendeleev? I
Yes.
And then I think the funny thing is it's like, because I think they were supposed to be put in trios for like a group project or something. And then like Alia gets paired with Nino and Adrian. And then unfortunately Marinette gets paired up with Chloe and Sabrina. And
Sabrina.
Alia's like, talk about unlucky. It was
Right?
I felt so bad. Like, I felt so bad. I was like, "Oh, girl, I'm so sorry you got paired with your bully." Like, I was like, "Oh my gosh." That part, I felt so bad for Marinette. I was just like, "Man." I'm like, "Oh," it's like, I hate that the teacher did that to Marinette.
I also think Evil Illustrator is the episode, because of the order it came out in. I think it was like it was the 8th episode I watched from season 1. But I think it's the episode where I realized I really don't like Sabrina Ron Capri at all. Um, because I always tell like my subscribers when I talk about why I don't like Sabrina, but I always say that Sabrina had the opportunity, like a literal golden opportunity, to kind of just stop being friends with Chloe. Because let's be honest, Sabrina is quite likable on paper. Like there's no reason why she wouldn't get along with anyone in the class other than the fact that she's BFFs with Chloe. But she's nice, she's respectful-ish. um, and she had that opportunity to just, be Marinette's friend and not be Chloe's, servant. And I just, when she snapped at Marinette, when Marinette said she had like something to do, and she was kind of busy to work on the project, she immediately just snapped at her, and I was like, okay, girl, like you had your chance, but you want to go back to Chloe, that's fine. So yeah, I just think Evil Illustrator was that episode that cemented why I don't really like Sabrina. I was willing to give her the benefit of the doubt, but then when I watched the episode, I was like, nah, Sabrina just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah,
Mm,
that I can agree with. Also, Chloe's just like the perfect love to hate character. Just kind of like the bully type of character. She is. Like
Right.
you just want to hate her.
yeah. Like it's pretty obvious where it's like, and like they really establish, you could say they really establish Chloe really well as like the bully archetype. It's like, oh yeah, it's pretty obvious we are basically made to hate this character. um and everything. So it's like, yeah, like, but it's like you said, Guy, like Sabrina on paper sounds like an interesting character, but then when it's executed in the episode, you're kind of like, you
Yeah.
could have the chance to leave Chloe. I'm like, okay, like, oh, I'm gonna like, okay. I was like she's an all right character. I don't hate her, and and I don't love her. It's just like in the middle where it's like, okay, I just learned to tolerate the character, you could say. But of course, like Chloe's the one we're all supposed to hate because of the way she behaves and everything.
Whenever something happens to Chloe, oh, it's so satisfying.
Oh yes, that I can agree. Oh wait, what was that episode where I oh no wait, was it I think was it what was it like Dark Cupid, I think? That's the one where like she basically forced Adrian to sign like her poster of him or something. And then like, when Sabrina gets hit with the with Dark Cupid's thing, she ends up like drawing the
Oh yeah.
like, that part got me. I'm just like, Chloe got her just desserts in that episode.
Oh, and it's beautiful.
It's funny. It's funny how we're talking about this, but like now reflecting on it, I think what makes season one so golden is the fact that we are made to dislike Chloe, and when something like bad happens, she kind of gets what she deserves in season one, but it's still so like effortlessly hilarious. So it's like she never really gets away with like what she does, and when she gets what she deserves, it's just so hilarious. It's so funny. We're just like, yes, great.
Oh my gosh. I think what was funny in the Dark Cupid episode where Kim wanted to get his revenge on Chloe, and she's like, just hit me with your thing already. And then he's like, you're not even worth it. I'm like, oh,
Oh, it was such a great burn.
that was so savage. I'm just like, well, because she's already messed up, right? Like she's trying to run away from Kim because Marinette as Ladybug is like trying to tell her to run, right? And then he's chasing them, and then she's like, "Man, my clothes is all dirty," right? And then she's like, "Just hit me with your power already and just get it over with." And then he's like, "Ah, you're not even worth it." And then he just laughs evilly, just flies away. I'm like, oh, I was like, this is the funniest like savage roast I've seen.
Oh, I tell you, that's probably like one of the best roasts in the entire show, and it was just like such a beautiful thing to see.
I was laughing so hard. I was just like, ooh, I was like, but then I was like, Chloe deserved it though. If I'm gonna be honest, she deserved the savage roast at that.
I personally just love it when bully characters get their just desserts, and it's like the most satisfying thing to come out of it.
Yeah, like, um, but like for sure, I think Dark Cupid was like, as I said, like Dark Cupid is one of my favorite episodes from season one. Because like I said, for one, it was that savage roast, and then I think my other favorite moment was like when Marinette responded to Adrian's poem. I found that was really cute. Like Adrian was writing a poem about Ladybug, and then like he just threw it in the trash, and then Marinette got it out of the trash, and she read it, and she's like, "Oh," and she's like, "What should I write to him?" And then she's like, "Wait a minute, I'll just respond to his poem." And I think what was hilarious is that we all know Marinette is a klutz. So when she put the letter in, like, she didn't even remember to even put her name on the letter. And then Alia's like, "Did you put your name or didn't you?" And then she's
Or would
like,
you rather be the secret admirer?
no, right? She's like, Marinette's trying to remember if she did or she didn't, and she's like, "Oh, I don't remember." Then Alia's just laughing at her how adorable she is at being a klutz, and she's like, "I can't believe it. The girl doesn't even remember if she wrote her name." Like, but you have got to love Alia. She's like the wing woman. I've always enjoyed Alia's character. Like, every time, whenever I see the interactions between like Alia, Marinette, Adrian, and Nino, it kind of gives me like that vibe from like Hey Arnold with like Arnold, Helga, Phoebe, and Gerald. I don't know
Mm.
if it's I don't know if you guys kind of see it, but like it's clearly that Adrian and Nino, Arnold and Gerald, and like, and then like Phoebe and Helga are pretty much like Marinette and Alia. Well, Helga goes about it the wrong way though, but but still, they're very similar in some ways.
I love the core four in season one. Since you mentioned Alia, Nino, Marinette, and Adrian, I have to bring up this episode from season one. Was it Animan? Oh my gosh, I absolutely adore that episode. The one episode where they were kind of all hanging out together, but then they didn't realize they were all together at the same time. Where like Nino had a crush on Marinette, so Adrian was being his wingman, um, and then Marinette was trying to set Alia up with Nino, and Alia was in her ear, and Adrian was in Nino's ear, like giving advice, and they just screwed it up. It was just, I just love that episode so much because the core four are just so special to me. Like I just love their friendship.
Oh, for sure. Like the core four, like you can clearly see their dynamics and everything. Like I kind
So
of like how
I just want to say that Isla, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Please correct me if I'm butchering the name. Isla something, but she's one of my favorite characters in the show.
oh wait, who?
Alya, the girl with the glasses.
Oh, Alia.
Yeah, she's
Oh,
one of my favorite characters in the
mm,
show.
oh yeah. Like I love Ollie as a character because she was always supportive of Marinette, you know, and everything, and every time like But I kinda also like that she made the lady blog as well. I think that's another favorite aspect of her that I love, because she loves to report everything, like, about Ladybug and all that. But Animan, I agree, like, that one really established the core force, like, dynamic. Like, I think my favorite part in that episode was when Adrian was trying to tell Nino, what to say to Marinette, and then it's so funny, Nino just messes up and he's like, "It's your friend Alia." Like, he was so close to saying you, but then it's like, "Your friend Alia," like, very fast, and um, I think what's funny though is that when when the akumatized villain came to be and stuff, Marinette just locks them in the animal cage.
Oh yeah.
That part got me. I was just like, of all the places to keep them safe, you put them in an animal cage. What's the logic in this? It's like one of my favorite funny moments because like Nino's like, "What's up?" Right, and then she's like, "Ugh." Like
Oh
she's
yeah.
like, and
The
she's like,
one person I didn't want to be stuck with, I ended up being stuck in an animal cage, no less.
yes, like um, but I kind of I like the villain in that one because they shapeshift into different animals. That's clever. It's a very clever one. They're not just one, if you know what I mean. They're not just one appearance, like most of the villains are. This
Mm.
one, it's like they shapeshift into different animals, and I'm like, this is clever. Very unique villain for sure. Like, I'm trying to remember what was the. Oh yeah, like wasn't it also because Kim pretty much triggered him with the negative emotions, if I remember.
Yeah, Kim was something during season one, which actually kind of reminds me. Um, I know we're talking about season one, but when you just look back at how like Miraculous has changed from like season one to where we are right now, it just made me
Mhm.
realize that like Kim's character, he was a complete like asshole in season one. So when we get to like season two and season three, he completely switches, and the switch up is out of nowhere. It's kind of like he
Mm,
just becomes like that the regular, class clown. Wherein I distinctly remember in season one, like he was kind of a terrible person. Um, like you mentioned, like he was making fun of the animals, which triggered the zookeeper, and that's what led him to getting akumatized. I also remember him deliberately like taking Alia's phone during Lady Wi-Fi and was helping Chloe. Like Kim was not a nice person in season one.
mm. Mhm. That's something I can agree with, yeah, like, we've seen instances where it's like, like, I don't think, I don't think he realizes that his actions do have consequences.
Mm,
That's kinda how I see it, cause like, he thinks everything is just a joke, and he doesn't realize that, some practical jokes and pranks can hurt people, so he doesn't realize what he's doing is okay, And I do agree, cause in season 2 and 3, you're like, yeah." where did this switch come from? If he had some
Right.
character development, then I'm like, then I would have seen it. But it's like, yeah, like he does a weird 180 where it's like, I'm sorry, what? when, did, when did you decide to be at least a more decent person is kind of weird. The writing was a little off, I would say. But I would say throughout season one, I would say the core four are the most consistently written characters, I would say.
I
Yeah, that I
agree.
can agree with.
Yeah, because in a way, I think we spend more time with them than your classmates. You know, like of course, we do spend a little bit of time, depending if they're the akumatized villain, because of course the classmate ones are like the evil illustrator. Of course, Alia ends up getting akumatized as Lady Wi-Fi. Then we have Rose akumatized as Princess Fragrance. Then we have Kim akumatized as Dark Cupid. And then Nino was akumatized into Bubbler. And then Gamer, I think, was Max, I believe.
Yeah.
And then I think Timebreaker was Alex, and then Horrificator was Milen, and then Reflecta was Julika, Antibug was Chloe, and
And
then
Sabrina.
oh yeah, you're right, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And of course Volpina. Those are like the ones where it's like the classmates, you know, in some way, shape, or form. But I
I think
think with
why season
oh,
one.
oh
Sorry,
sorry,
you
go
keep
ahead.
going.
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I was just kind of piggybacking off what you were saying. But I think why season one is so like memorable and so like great for me and enjoyable is because we really get to see the dynamic of the class as well as the core four. So you were mentioning every episode in their like akumatized villain and who got akumatized. And I think season one did a great job in kind of like tying in the akumatization into telling us like who these characters are and what their biggest flaw is. So Alia's biggest flaw when she got akumatized in Lady Wi-Fi was the fact that she's always looking for answers, and sometimes always looking for answers kinds of lands you in a unwanted situation. Like there's this thing as being too determined. With Max, he got akumatized because he couldn't accept that somebody else was better than him, and that's completely okay. Like I really resonate with Max's akumatization because yes, he'd been working so hard to win the competition, and then Marinette, who just had not been practicing at all, came out of nowhere and beat him at his own game, demolished him even. Um, who else got akumatized? Milen got akumatized because she's just a naturally like anxious and afraid person, and I really appreciate that in season one. Every person who gets akumatized, we learn a bit about their character, and
Mhm.
it's just so unique to them. Whereas like in later seasons, they're just recycling akumatized villains. So it's like, why do we even care about why these people are getting akumatized? We don't. For me, I personally don't care why like Mr. Pigeon is getting akumatized for the 72nd time. But season one, there was actually like a nuance behind the akumatization and how Hawkmoth was able to kind of use these characters' weaknesses to his advantage. And that's what was so interesting about like Hawkmoth, because we didn't know who he was, but we knew his biggest strength was understanding who these people are and how their weaknesses can actually be their, downfall. And I love that so much.
Like for sure, it like to piggyback off of Yugi, it's like you said, it was very unique to each character. We do understand their flaw, like like I think what was interesting about Nino was that we like we all know Gabriel doesn't like to budge about a lot of things, and Nino's like, "Hey, let me talk to your old man, to see if he can have a birthday," because I think in that episode it was like Adrian's birthday, if I remember.
Yeah, it was Adrian's birthday, and Gabriel didn't want him to have a party.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
and I think what was interesting is that like Nino's like it should be easy to talk to your old man. It's like, oh no, we all know Gabriel is a hard guy to approach, you know. And then as soon as Nino tries to mention it, Gabriel just shuts him down very fast. And then Adrian's like, I'm so sorry. And it's like, Adrian did warn him ahead of time, like, my dad doesn't like to budge on things.
Yeah, I mean, that
You
is Gabriel's character. He likes to have total control and will not budge on it.
So, and then in a way, like Gabriel, like, when you think about it, like Nino was doing it with good intention because it's like, yeah, how come Adrian's not allowed to have a birthday party, right? He's at that age where, they do want to have parties, so it's like, but at the same time, in a way, Gabriel was pretty smart in manipulating him, because remember he trapped all of the parents in the bubbles, and then
Yeah.
like the spike, because he's like, oh, and and he was doing the control that like, hey, it's like it's not fair that parents always have to tell us what to do, but at the same time, like like Marinette as Ladybug had to, I think I think it was more Marinette was trying to talk him down, like saying, parents do it to protect their children, though. Gabriel's on a whole different level, as we all know.
Yeah, Gabriel's on a way different level.
Yeah, so so it's just very ironic, if you know what I mean, that Marinette is giving like Nino when he's like akumatized, like the pep talk where it's like, "Oh, Marinette, you don't know how controlling Gabriel is," and everything. So I think that one was a very clever one. Like Nino was doing it with good intentions, but at the same time, it's like Gabriel kind of used that against him, and everything. So yeah, so I think let's see, I'm trying to think. I think, but I am curious to know which Akumatai's villain's powers did you guys like the most? I'm very curious.
I like the weather one because I think like everybody like dreamed of manipulating the weather, so that was always just like up there as one of mine.
Stormy weather,
Ooh,
gotcha.
I think mine would definitely have to be the puppeteer. Because
Ooh.
I think the puppeteer was the closest, well, almost the closest to actually winning. And it's so funny because she's significantly younger than all the other Akumatized villains. But she had, for me at least, she had the best power. Like she took control of Cat Noir and almost took control of Ladybug. But Ladybug was lucky in the sense that she was able to intercept it before she got to control Ladybug.
Nice, yeah. But then again, the downfall of akumatizing a child is that you can actually bribe them.
True.
So that's why Hawkmoth's like, I was so close. I'm like, that was your first mistake, akumatizing a child.
Yeah, it's like one of those rules in terms like you just don't hurt the baby.
Yeah, because when we do get to season 2, he does akumatize a baby. It's like, dude, you do
I'm
realize
like, but no. Listen, the villain gotta have standards, my dude.
I was just laughing at that one in season 2. I'm just like, why did it go to a baby? That's even more. It's like you think the baby's gonna listen to you, especially when they don't even talk. Like, yeah, that one was like not his best moment as a villain. Yeah, I would say also puppeteer, but like the pros of that, like you said, Guy, the puppeteer Manon very, very close. So that's definitely a pro. But then again, the con is like you akumatize the child, so they're not fully developed in understanding the gravity of what you're giving them, you know? Like, so I think that was like a very interesting episode. I think my other favorite episode is Horrificator. Like, that one was like interesting because how I think they were like filming a short film or something that day. And then like,
Right.
and I think Milan and Adrian were like casted as the mains and stuff. And then every time Ivan had to come in dressed as the monster, she always got scared. And and then I think she had to take a breather or something. And then like she was very anxious and afraid. And and Hawkmoth preyed on that, and then she actually became an actual monster when she was akumatized. And what was interesting, the what was I think it was an interesting way to defeat the villain for that one, I would
It
say.
was. That's why I love the nuances of season one and the villains and how they ended up defeating the villains. So I think the idea was that it only grows. Milen's villain, I think it was Horrificator. They have different names. It's either like Terrificator or Horrificator, but I know it's Horrificator. The only way to defeat Horrificator is by not feeding fear into it. So the more fear you show, the more it obviously grows. Um, so if you just show that you're not afraid and you try to combat it by being brave, it shrinks. And I think it's a very great lesson to incorporate in a kids show, and it does it in a very like smart and very um kids tailored way so that they understand that
Mm.
hey, like it's okay to be afraid, um but fear doesn't really solve anything. It just makes your problems grow bigger. And the less fear you show, you realize that your problems aren't that massive, and that your fear was just making it bigger than what it originally was. And I think that's just a great lesson to show.
Like for sure. Like you could say it's like an analogy too. It's like to piggyback off of you. You said that like it's like to teach kids that like it's okay to be afraid, um once you show you're not afraid, it's not as big and scary as you believe it to be.
Right.
So I think what was interesting is that when Milan kept getting bigger, they couldn't find the akumatized object, which I found very interesting. Because they're like, you know how usually the Akuma always goes into the object that the person is either holding or wearing in some way? Um, this one, it's like they had to make her shrink very small in order to find the object. Because when she was big, because, like, I think when Ladybug and Cat and Wolf, they're like, "We need to find the object and break it." And then he's like, "I don't see anything." And then I'm like, "This is clever." It's like a great analogy. It's a great analogy. Like, I think that's why it's another memorable episode to me because it's like, um, and then I think when Marinette did her Lucky Charm, she's like, and then I think she had to do that song, they had to play the song in order to make her shrink,
Right.
and then they can find the akumatized object and all that. And and I think that was really great that they did that because in a way, like if you do something that calms the person down, it makes them, you know but I think what I love the detail in that episode is that, when Milan as Horrificator was kidnapping everyone, but she didn't kidnap Ivan, which was interesting.
Right. I guess it meant that she felt Ivan was her safe space. And I think that's
Mm,
the episode where they actually become a couple, like officially become a couple. Because we knew like from Origins they a thing for each other, even if they didn't realize it at first. But then in Horrificator, that's when they fully, cement their relationship and officially become Ivan and Milen, the couple.
Mm-hmm. Like, like for sure. Like I think because as soon as I saw that, like I was like, oh, so it seems like Milan seemed to have a bit of control even when she was akumatized, which I found very interesting. Because most people, when they're emotionally unstable, when they're akumatized, they like to take it out on innocent bystanders and all that. But Milan actually had some self-control there, even when she was akumatized. So I found that very interesting in that episode. And even like when Ladybug and Cat Noir noticed, hey, didn't you notice that the monster didn't kidnap Ivan? You know? And then that's when she realized, oh, I think the monster is Milen. So um the yeah, it's Horrificator is definitely another memorable one. Let's see. Trying to remember what's another. Trying to remember what's my other. Kevin, do you have any memorable episodes from season one?
I would say, like, just going back to that to that one villain that almost won, that was one that was up there for me. And I know, like, obviously the villain can't win because then there would be no show. But just seeing that they got so close, and it's like, okay, well, now imagine that it had just gone the other way. That's one of the reasons why it's up there for
Mm.
me.
Yeah. like for sure. I'm trying to remember the episode where like Marinette and Adrian's class had to go to like I think Chloe's father's like hotel or something. And
Oh, it's um it's either no, it's Pixelator, right?
I I think so.
It's
Like
so I think was it they were given like work experience, um, and they had to do like different tasks, and then Marinette and Alia got like trash duty or something.
Yeah, it was pixelated.
oh yeah.
They visited the grandparents' hotel in order to try out some of the staff job.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, like I think what was interesting is that like Marinette literally had to get like I think make sunglasses or something for Jagged Stone. And then I think she tried to give him some and then he's like, I don't like this. So she literally had to craft it her own to give it to Jagged. And I think that was what was interesting in that episode. And Marinette and they have established early on that Marinette is very, she's very crafty, you know, you, because she actually wants to be a fashion designer. But I think what was really cool is that she decided to use her artistic aspect to be able to make the types of glasses that Jagged wanted. Um so I think that was really, really cool. And I think and then, of course, this episode had my favorite another Chloe's Just Desserts. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
I think, well, my favorite part is like, "Oh, these are to" I think they were giving, like, tickets to Jagged's concert, and it was the ones who worked hard. And what was funny is that Jagged's assistant was giving it to Alia, Nino, Adrian, and then they just skip Chloe. Chloe's just like, this is ridiculous, utterly ridiculous. I was like, oh, Chloe just got her just desserts for this as well. I think that always made me laugh. I was like, oh yeah, Chloe just got her just desserts again. And that's definitely another one of my favorites for sure. Like, um I'm trying to think, wait, where is I'm trying to remember what happened in Dark Blade. It's I don't
Oh,
know.
Dark Blade is one of my favorite episodes as well. um, Dark Blade was the episode where the elections were coming up, both like the mayor elections and the class representative elections, and Chloe was running unopposed, but then Marinette decided that she wanted to run because Chloe doesn't actually care about like democracy and everything. So while she's running, um, Mr. Darjancourt is running as well, but then he loses because Mayor Bourgeois wins again for the second year in a row or something. Um, and so like I think it was just a great episode, and it told us a lot about Marinette's character. Um, and the difference between her and Marinette. Like I love that episode so much because I relate so much to Marinette. She had to kind of rely on she had to like look within herself and remind herself why she's worthy of being class representative, because sometimes you don't often realize um what you possess until you look deep within yourself. So she was like, "Oh, I'm resourceful. I won't be able to answer like everything you guys want, but I am a great problem solver." And she really had to like think about it and be like, "No, I don't need to bribe you guys like Chloe. I don't need to tempt you guys with like, jagged stone tickets and autographs and everything. I would do what's best for you guys, and I would try my best to be a great class representative." And it's just the fact that she didn't want to run initially. Like she was very like skeptical of running, but she realized if nobody else ran, then it's kind of a bad sign because again, Chloe doesn't really care about anybody else other than herself. And I think it was just a great like leap of faith for Marinette and her journey, because she went from being the quiet girl who never really took any risks and was, constantly put down by Chloe, to the girl who's like, no, I'm gonna stand against Chloe. I'm gonna oppose her and I'm gonna win. And it was just so great.
Like, for sure. Like, this is also another great lesson to kids, actually. Like, I kind of like how Marinette's like, I want to be voted fairly,
Mm,
and yeah, like, that's not like Chloe obviously doesn't know how how democracy works in any way, but it's like you do need to listen to everyone's problems, because that's realistic in real life. When you become a leader of a country, you need to listen to all the problems and learn to problem solve how we can innovate that, how to remedy that and everything.
I agree.
But yeah, like, it's a great lesson because it's like you can't just bribe people to vote for you. It's like, wait, because as we all know, when it comes to elections, you do need to provide why people should vote for you. You need to reassure them that the country is in great hands. That's what um and like you said, Marinette was being totally honest. At least she's like, I can try my very best. Like, I can't solve all your problems, but I can try my very best,
Yeah,
to,
and she is right on that.
yeah, like, because that's being very truthful. Like, you can't put false promises that you can solve everything. That's just not realistic, as we all know. Like, you just have to do the very best that you can every day to be a leader, Um, and I think that's why it's a great lesson for kids. They kind of learn about, oh, okay, it's like you do have to cater to, since Marinette was running for class president, so um at least like I said, the best the best thing to be for a leader is to be honest. Like you can't just give false promises that you can solve all the issues and
Right.
problems. Like, she was being totally honest about it. It's like, I can't solve everything, but I will do my very best to try, you know, to be the best class president for you guys. So and of course I think the thing I hated Chloe a lot in this episode because she basically had Sabrina steal Marinette's diary. And I'm just like, okay, this really cements that we have to hate Chloe.
Makes
Like,
getting her just desserts all the more satisfying.
yeah. Because what was it like Sabrina's hand stuck in the thing that was holding Marinette's diary?
Yeah, it got shut because Marinette had designed a like safety lock sort of thing where like only the person with the key can unlock it. So it's immediately just gonna trap the person, which also revealed us that Marinette is a very like precautious person. She's very like, oh, okay, if this happens, then I've got a backup plan for the backup plan. Like she's very preventative in the sense that like she will take any measures just to prevent something from happening. And I think it just showed how like crafty she was in terms of, oh, like she can actually make her diary, design it in a sense that it would just trap someone's arm there and only the person with the key can unlock it. I think that was just so cool.
Yeah, like for sure. Like which is actually a good thing because you can never be too careful. You know, we can see how like Marinette's well aware that Chloe loves making her life miserable. So that's why she takes all those extra precautions and everything, which I don't blame her because it's like Chloe will be Chloe. So it's like um let's see, what's the I think what was interesting, another interesting episode in season one, I think it was the Mr. Pigeon one, like in the aspect of like Marinette decides to enter a contest that Gabriel agrees to make like a hat or something,
Yeah.
and then like Marinette was having like, "Oh no," and she's like, "I can make like different types of hat, but a derby hat?" Like I saw like her struggle, and I'm like, "This is quite interesting." And then like, um, and then I think she got inspiration because of this, because of the
Yeah,
akumatized woman.
and she created the feather derby hat, which won the competition. So that was interesting that she got inspiration from a battle to win the competition.
Yeah. And I think, it also shows Marinette's resourcefulness too, because like, Chloe being Chloe decides to plagiarize. But Marinette took the extra precaution and she actually stitched her own name on there on
Right.
her hat because it's like, yeah, if you have your name on it, then no one can plagiarize it, and it's sewed on too. So and I kind of like how Marinette was able to like show that this is her original work, not Chloe's. And and like I said, I kind of like how Marinette's like, here we go again. And then so she had to explain to Gabriel about it. And then she actually showed that I signed mine. And then Chloe realized that she got caught because it's like, yeah, it's like when once you write your name on something, yeah, you know, um, so like I said, Marinette was really great at explaining that this is my original work, not Chloe's. And Marinette was able to present it very well. Her reasonings made sense because she was the one who stitched the entire hat herself. And she was
Right.
able to prove that the derby hat was the one that she actually made herself, not Chloe. And it's like,
It
yeah.
it also like reinforced the idea that like every designer knows their craft and Marinette takes pride in that. So yes, you can copy a design, but you can never really copy the work that goes into it, which is why Marinette took the measures to actually stitch her name on it, which Chloe didn't realize because you can't really copy the craft and you can't copy the designer's like craft making, which is Marinette. Like, I think the episode or that ending scene at least showed that Chloe would never ever be what Marinette is, simply because Marinette is so like strongly rooted in her own identity as a designer, and she takes pride in that. Which is why at the end, when Alia was like, "Do you want me to handle it?" and Marinette was like, "No, no, girl, I got it." She really stayed calm, because we know Marinette can be quite impulsive when it comes to Chloe, but she was
Oh
like, "No, I
yeah.
got this. I got this." And then she calmly explained that every designer takes pride in their own work and signs their design, which Chloe didn't do, which is how she knows she's a real designer and Chloe is obviously a counterfeit. And I found that so iconic.
Yeah, and that was just a great way to show the flaw in Chloe's character and the strengths in Marinette's character too.
Right.
Mhm. Like for sure, like it's like you said, like we all know half the time Marinette can be very impulsive, but when it comes to her like fashion design, she takes pride in it. And it's very clear like she admires Gabriel Legresse, you know. Like I think Marinette has mentioned Gabriel Legresse was like her inspiration to pursue fashion design, you know. So and and it's like you said, Guy, like she takes pride in that. So that's how she was able to handle um, what Chloe did in that episode, because she's like, "Oh yeah." And then she just explained it and I'm like, "Of course Chloe wouldn't understand the terminology, in fashion design, because it's like Chloe just rather have other people do the work for her." Meanwhile, Marinette's like, I take pride in what I do. And I wrote my name on there, you know, because we all know plagiarism is not okay. It's not okay at all,
Right.
and the fact is that it shows that even Gabriel actually trusted in Marinette's like explanation too. Like he's like, and he said, I can see that you have the makings of a hat maker. Like you can tell she really convinced Gabriel that the derby hat she made was her own original work, and and he realized that she put a lot of work into actually designing it and creating that. So, and I think, it really cements that I love that aspect about Marinette, like being so passionate about fashion design.
Mhm.
And of course, in this episode, we find out Adrian's allergic to pigeons. And I think in that episode where Marinette's like, "We need bait," he's like, "Oh, please no, I'm allergic to like," and and it made me laugh because it's like, "Oh, okay, so we actually find out Adrian's actually allergic to pigeons. Okay, that's interesting." And then, of course, Agent dreading it as Cat Noir is like, I'm allergic to pigeons though. It's like, why do I have to be the bait? um, but I think what was really funny though is that when Agent went to try on Marinette's hat, he started sneezing because it's an actual real pigeon feather. It's like, I'm allergic to pigeons. And then I kind of like how in I think it was like season 2 where, Agent actually wears the hat Marinette design. I forgot
Yeah,
what
I
it.
love how they brought it back. Yeah. I like how they interwove like some events from season 1 into season 2. And she mentions how like because it's a fake pigeon um feather now, because his allergy, she had to use a fake one. Um and he's like, no, 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 like you made the right like choice and everything. Yeah, it was just so like I just love the callback.
Like for sure. Like, but it makes sense because if the person modeling is allergic to a specific thing, you do need to take that into consideration because if Marinette just kept the real pigeon, he would be sneezing he would be sneezing a lot during um the fashion show. So it made a lot of sense where she had to put a fake one. a fake pigeon feather on it, just so it wouldn't so it wouldn't run the risk of him like sneezing a lot. But
Yeah.
yeah, Mr. Pigeon was just very memorable in terms of, like I said, like Adrian as Cat Noir dreaded being bait because he's allergic to pigeons, and of course Marinette explaining, that she was able to prove that the derby hat is her own original design. So those were definitely the highlights for me in that episode. Mm, trying to think. Um, oh wait. Oh yeah, let's talk about the gamer episode, the one where Max gets akumatized. I want to know your thoughts on that.
I I love I love all the episodes of season one. I've been saying that for every episode we've talked about, but I really really enjoy the gamer episode because of the lessons behind it. Like I mentioned, season one is just so unique, and the writers are so like aware of the charm behind the Miraculous Ladybug, which I think they forget later on in the series. Um, but I like Gamer so much because not only does Max learn a lesson, but Marinette learns a lesson as well. And it's Tiki that's calling Marinette out on that lesson, actually, which is why, again, I love season one because Tiki's constantly calling Marinette out. She's like her moral compass. um,
Mm,
but I think with Max, he gets akumatized, and we learn a lot about his character, that he's a very hardworking individual, and he takes pride in being very studious and very hardworking and very determined. It's kind of like his identity. So as soon as that identity gets shaken by somebody else who hasn't been practicing as hard as him, who probably doesn't really make gaming his passion, a passion, but is just as good as him, if not better, then he kind of feels threatened that, oh my gosh, like I've been doing this, everyone knows me as an excellent gamer, and here comes Marinette, who just did not practice at all, or he assumes that she hasn't practiced, which is another lesson. Just never judge a book by its cover, because yes, on the surface, it looks like Marinette does not care about gaming, but nobody knows that she plays with her dad 24/7, and that's how she became great at gaming. So I think the lesson is that you can't really be bitter when somebody else is better than you, because there's always going to be someone out there that's better than you, and that's
Yeah,
just the harsh truth about life. It doesn't matter how hard you work, there's always going to be someone that's just better at you. Maybe they're just naturally better. It doesn't matter, like there's going to be someone that's better than you,
yeah,
and
and
he
just
let
adding on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, you go ahead, you jump in.
Yeah, I was gonna say, adding on to that, it also says like, yeah, you can try your hardest and you can be the best at everything and still fail or still come in second place, so to say.
mhm,
Exactly. So I think it kind of hits his ego. But not in a way that he's very cocky. It just hits his ego, and he just kind of feels threatened that his identity is being, shaken, and that's why he gets akumatized, because he's like, oh my gosh, like I worked so hard at this, and Marinette just came out of nowhere and beat me, and blah blah blah. Um, and I think it was Ladybug who says you don't have to get so bent out of shape for losing. But then Marinette also learns that sometimes it isn't fair to just do that, especially because you didn't want to do this. You only did it for Adrian. And in turn you
mhm,
ended up hurting your friend Max.
mhm.
So it was like great lessons that was learnt in the episode. But I also really love the Adrianette content. Um, how they just bonded, and it was the first episode where Marinette gave Adrian the lucky charm, and I just found it so like cute how she made that lucky charm for herself, but without a doubt, without any hesitation, she was like, no, Adrian needs it more than I do, like I'm okay without it, he needs the encouragement, let me give it to him. And I think Adrian recognizes that while Marinette really is a great friend, she didn't even hesitate to give me her lucky charm, which is why we get that callback in season two, for her, but when it was her birthday, I think it was the episode where her grandma comes. I forgot the name of the episode.
Oh, Bafana?
Bafana. Yeah, it's one of my favorite episodes, and I completely forgot it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we get that call back in Bafana where he actually decided to repay the favor or the compliment, and he made his own lucky charm for her, and it was just so cute.
Like the I agree with everything you said, Guy, about like yeah, like it is harsh truth and reality, no matter the industry. Because I would say it happen like it can happen in any industry. You can work hard and work hard. You can be a hard worker as much as you want, but there's always going to be someone that's going to be better than you, and and like you said that like Max has been like practicing, which makes a lot of sense. That's realistic. Like if you want to get good at something, you have to practice it as much as you can. And of course, here comes Marinette because she's only doing it because Adrian tournament, right? She just did it effortlessly, and like you said, he felt threatened that like, oh my gosh, how did she beat me? I was like, I've been practicing. Like, it's like I've been practicing all year for this. And, but as you said, like the harsh reality is that you can work as hard as you can be a hard worker and work as much as you want, but there's always going to be someone that's better than you at what you're trying to do. And but I think my favorite cute moment is that like when Marinette and Adrian like playing the game, she's just so casual and you just see Adrian on on the opposite edge just trying to like he's trying to like he's trying to get the best of her, but she's just casually just smiling and playing. I think that was a cute moment
It
because
was.
because you could tell Adrian was struggling and Marinette wasn't even struggling at all. She was just casually playing like it was like she wasn't having any issue at all. And I'm just like I had no idea that Marinette actually knows how to play video games and without any effort. I did like that threw me off. I was just like, I did not know she know how to play video games and without any effort. That's so interesting. We see like so many different sides of Marinette, I would say, in season one. Like we see the fashion design side, we see the hidden gaming talent that we had no idea until like gamer.
Yeah, it's like, where have you been all the time, Aaron?
Like li like, I'm pretty sure she can win the Smash Brothers tournament at this
I
point
wouldn't be surprised.
because, like, she's just sitting there being all casual, and I'm just like, "Girl, how are you so calm and relaxed when you're playing video games?" Especially if it's a fighting game, because we have a lot of fighting game tournaments, and most people, they get competitive, but she's just so chill and relaxed, and she just calmly just plays it like it's without any effort. I'm just like, oh, she probably give gamers a run for their money. I'm trying to remember, how did they defeat Max when he was akumatized? It's been a long while since
Yeah,
I've seen this
maybe you remember, Dee.
um, so I think she kind of gets out of the mega-sized robot thingy.
episode.
She sprays the his screen so he can't see it. So she kind of cheats, to be honest. She sprays the screen, and then when he's like not looking, she takes the glasses and breaks them. So yeah.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I did not remember that at all. It's been like a long while. Um, but I think in that instance, I think in that instance she had to cheat, because like remember like Max was showing he was very formidable when he was a and 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 when you think about it, she had to think smarter, not harder, if you know what I mean.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I think it also shows that because you know how like Marinette, I think it was like in the later episode where like when she's Ladybug, she's like I don't, she's like for some reason whenever I do my lucky charm, it's like a very complicated plan, right? Because she has to figure out how to use the object and everything. But here, like she realized, okay, we can't fight fists with fists because they're both in like robot things, right? So she had to think smarter, not harder. So I think that was like an instance where she had to cheat, because like I said, Max was very formidable
Right.
when he was akumatized. So sometimes we have to take into perspective, even though she did cheat, she had to think smarter, not harder. Because if you think smarter, that means you are strategically trying to figure out how to deakumatize the person. So
Right.
um,
There's a phrase to to beat the villain, you have to be the better villain. And that's not to say that Marinette is a villain, but sometimes you kind of just have to think like a villain in order to beat them at
mm,
their own game. So yes, she kind of cheated at, like by getting out of the robot and then spraying Max's screen. But at the end of the day, it's for a good cause, and she had to win because, like, let's wrap it up. We need to fix Paris, and save the day because we don't have time for this.
mhm. Like and and I think that's a very interesting perspective. It's like you said, Marinette's not the villain, but it's like sometimes you have to be the better villain, you know. And of course when we get to like the later season episodes, we can talk about other episodes that do that. But yeah, like she did she did play the villain better. But like I said, she did have to cheat and um get out of the robot to do it, but it's like she was thinking smarter at the same time. So I always tell my friends this, that in order to problem solve, you need to think smarter, not harder. Because
Exactly.
if you start thinking harder, like you're gonna even stress more and more, so it's like sometimes you have to strategically think smarter, you know. And and I think even though she did cheat, it's like she was thinking strategically smarter in this instance, because she's like, okay, we can't fight him, fist to fist, with the robot. It's like I got to think smarter and figure out how to use this object, right? Um, because when you think about it, when she comes up with the plans, they are very convoluted at times, but they work. um, and so I think, Gamer really teaches us that lesson, like the one about like, you can be a hard worker as much as you want, but at the same time, there's always going to be someone better than you without them doing any efforts. And then sometimes you got to think smarter, not harder. Um, in in that regard. Mm,
Completely agree.
mhm. Oh, okay. I just remembered the season one episode. Guitar Villain was also another one of my favorite episodes, I have to say.
I like Guitar Villain as well. Yeah. What episode? What happened? Oh yeah. So
I think it was episode 20. Yeah,
yeah,
episode
it's one of
20, what I'm seeing.
the later ones. Yeah, I think it's like right after Pixelator in terms of like chronology. But it was the episode where Jagged Stone was like Rob Roth or something was telling him that you need to change your style. Um, because like XY is just rising fame or whatever. And Jagged Stone is like, no, like I like my style, like people like me for me. I don't need to change who I am. So that was basically the entire message behind the um behind the episode, and how like Marinette was designing the cover for Jagged. And I think it also shows how like the music industry, and any industry for that matter, they often try to change your style so that you kind of stray away from who you truly are, just because of like fans and more views, more numbers. So it Marinette kind of has to learn that, yes, I was asked to draw a specific thing, but in her heart she knew that wasn't Jagged Stone's style. And then she had to
Mm,
do it again when she realized, oh my, when Jagged Stone like encouraged her and said, don't listen to Bob Ross, like draw how you would draw it, encapsulate my image, encapsulate my style, how you know what I am, and it'll be all like great. And I just really love that message so much, because she, like Marinette, had a gut instinct. She was like, this isn't Jagged Stone. And because this isn't Jagged Stone, because I'm being asked to do something completely different, I'm not even enjoying my craft. Because she mentions how like she can't really feel inspired to draw for Jagged because she's being asked to do something completely different. And then the minute Jagged Stone reassures her and tells her, don't listen to Bob, just draw how I know you can draw, that's when she gets like re-inspired again. And she draws the perfect cover. And Adrian asks for the autograph because he's just so inspired and like so at awe at Marinette.
yes, like for sure. Like this one really it's like to piggyback off of Yugi, like yeah, like I know like the music industry in specific, since this is a music industry centric episode, it really
Mhm.
shows that like yeah, like I kind of like how Jagged is like I am like he embraces his style. You know, he doesn't give in to the trend, you know, about I think was it XY, right? That's the
Yeah.
name and stuff. And and then like Jagged was just being brutally honest. It's like this guy's music isn't even that great and stuff. And I'm like, and like I said, Jagged doesn't give in to that pressure. He doesn't want to change who he is, you know like he's like the type, it's like I want to make the music that I love, you know because it really reiterates that you need to like do what you love because you love it. Don't like try to feel pressured, to change your style, because everyone loves you because of the style that you present, and lots of people are huge fans of Jagged Stone, as we can see in the series. And and I kind of like that scene when Marinette, when Bob Ross decided to give her that horrible creative direction, and then when she was listening to XY, she's like, oh, it's like I don't even feel inspired because this music is terrible, like she had to turn off the music.
I also want to add that it lightly touches upon like what the industry itself is like too. It doesn't go on a deeper level, but you get a little bit of a sense of what it's like, if that makes sense.
hmm Like, I think, as soon as like, you could say Jagged, it's like you said, Key, Jagged gave her that reassurance, like, hey, don't listen to Bob Ross about, you know, how to create the cover. It's like, do what you do, you know? So, and as we know, Marinette made a lit cover for Jagged Stone and stuff. And it's really cool because, like, did she add like stickers or something? Because I think she said she added like stickers on there to give it off like that smell or something.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, so I think like Jagged's like, okay. It's like Marinette did exactly the style that I usually do. Like, and you gotta admit that cover is still amazing. and and everything. So the yeah, I found it really cool that the fact I think yeah, this one was a later episode, so it's really cool that they continued it in a later episode in season one where Jagged remembered about Marinette making him those glasses. So I think that's a really nice callback. I'm not sure if you guys caught that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I kind of like how like Jagged's like when Bob Ross was trying to tell him to change his style, for his new cover, he's like and he's like, I don't even like this guy's music. He was being brutally honest, and then he's like, oh, and he told Bob Ross about Marinette, who made him the actual glasses he envisioned. So he's like, I think she can pull it off. So the fact that Jagged Stone, that's you gotta admit that's really cool to put on your resume. Like Marinette could literally put on her resume that she designed like an actual cover, like soundtrack for like a celebrity, because Jagged Stone's considered a celebrity in Miraculous. So I think that was I think it's another one of my favorite episodes. I'm just curious what you guys think of his outfit when he's akumatized though.
You know what? The season one outfits as a whole were very crazy, but very like intricate and very unique at the same time. I
Yeah,
think
I
Jagged
agree with
Stone,
Guy on that.
yeah. I quite like the outfit because Jagged Stone's a very like wild personality. So every time he said rock and roll and started playing the guitar and then his hair started shaking, like I think the outfit works well with like what the akumatized villain represents. Like Jagged Stone is, I think the whole episode was like Jagged Stone trying to stay true to himself, and everyone knows like he's a quite a very like eccentric person, and he's proud of that. So the outfit he gets as an akumatized villain kind of encapsulates that.
Uh-oh. Leah?
I thought it was me.
Oh no. I think Leah's connection not working. No, Leah.
Oh no.
Ooh.
Did you hear that? Okay, Leah.
Hmm?
Oh, okay. You went silent. I thought maybe you were having connection problems there.
Oh no. Oh
Oh,
no.
okay. Yeah, we were waiting for you to speak now.
Uh yeah, like I think I think in season one all the villains were just very unique in their like outfits. Like you could tell they really took the time to make each of the akumatized villains all different. Like it's not just like, as we all know, they recycle villains in the later seasons, but season one really cemented how creative they can get with like with the super villains and all that. Um, I think, um, yeah, I'm trying to think if I think for sure Stormy Weather is one of my favorites because it's just so iconic and
That was one of
and
my favorites too.
yeah, Stormy Weather. Um, I think another clever one was Copycat.
Copycat's one of my favorites.
That one was that one was pretty interesting because like they were literally fighting a villain that took on the guise of Cat Noir. And I'm just like, I love the play on the word. So I think that was what was interesting. And I'm trying to remember and then I think like the imposter actually framed Cat Noir for stealing something, if I remember. It's been a while for this
Yeah.
episode. Yeah. I know he got accused of stealing something, even though it was the imposter doing it, and and I think that's what like it really cemented. You could say it really cemented Ladybug and Cat Noir's trust in that episode because literally they were fighting a villain that took on the guise of Cat Noir, and it really cemented their trust, as a duo. Mm. Ooh. Okay, I want to know your guys' thoughts on Time Breaker, actually. I've been meaning to know.
Time Breaker, the episode where Alex gets akumatized.
Is it
Um,
Time Tagger? Is that it?
no,
The,
no, Time Tagger season 3, Time Breaker season 1. So I think Time Breaker, I have mixed feelings on that episode because it's kind of like the start where I knew Miraculous was going to implement time travel, even if I didn't know it back then. But it's so like weird because straight away, like as soon as we find out Alex gets this family heirloom, I'm like, is that impossible miraculous? That's crazy. And then it was confirmed 2 seasons later in Time Tagger season 3. Um, yeah, I like Time Breaker. I think Alex getting angry that she was irresponsible with her birthday gift was a bit too much because like, girl, it's your birthday gift. You're supposed to look after it. So why are you getting angry that it actually got broken? Because it's not anyone else's responsibility but yours. But other than that, the episode was fine in my opinion.
it's not
Mm,
one of the best episodes, but it's not a bad episode per se.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the ones where like I don't watch quite often when I'm rewatching season 1. It's just kind of there, you know.
mm. Like, but you gotta admit, like, I think what was interesting is that even though we didn't know it then, like they did hint about the gift being um like I kind of like how they brought it full circle and then you find out, oh my gosh, that was a miraculous. Like that threw me off guard. I was not expecting when you find out later. I think it was like in season 3, right? When they actually revealed that it's actually the rabbit miraculous in camouflage mode, and I'm just like that was like mind blown. Like the I want to know, were you guys really surprised? Like you could say this kind of like foreshadowed in a way, even though it didn't look like it was at the time, if you know what I mean.
In terms of the like Alex being a future hero.
Oh no, I mean about the watch, the pocket watch.
Oh, yeah, it was foreshadowed. I don't know how to explain it, but like it's just it was just so like, what do you mean it was passed down from generations and now it's, um it's your like belonging right now. I think it was very well hinted without giving away too much, but keeping too little from us at the same time.
Mhm. Like I think like it was just a little bit of hint where we just think it's like a regular pocket watch, right? Because it's a pocket watch, you know.
Right.
And then he kind of just shows a bit that it has, I guess, like a hologram thing when he pressed on it, and I'm just like, oh, that's no normal pocket watch, and and everything. But 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 the hint was still there, even though like at the same time I was just like, I was not expecting this. I thought it was just like a regular pocket watch and it had nothing to do with the miraculous. And then in season 3 you're just like, this is mind blown. What? Like it definitely caught me off guard later on, where it's like, I see what they did there. They kind of put a little bit of hint where it wasn't giving it away as easily, um, but at the same time, I think when we do get to talk about the season 3 episodes, I would totally love to go into more detail about that. Um, but I think what was pretty funny in this episode was like, you know how, Cat Noir is like, I get to fight with two ladybugs.
I'm in
And they're
heaven.
like, I kind of like how they both got annoyed. They're just like, bro, it's like, now's the time to get serious. We're dealing with two time breakers, not just one. And I'm just like,
But what actually happened to, because at this point there's two timelines created. The one where Ladybug goes back in time, and then the one where she's not in her current timeline. So like I'm always very confused when it comes to time travel, which is why I'm so skeptical about it. So did it just merge into one timeline, or like does that timeline just, the first timeline just not exist anymore?
mm, yeah, that is definitely hard to tell if there's like a branch, another branch of the timeline. Because this is going into levels of MCU or DC, you know?
Yes.
This goes into those types of levels, um, but because remember, I'm pretty sure all of us here have seen the Miraculous World Paris one, right? The
Right.
special.
hmm
Tiki kind of alludes that there's parallel universes, so that could probably be our answer. It's just a vague answer that Tiki says. But Tiki's well aware of the other parallel universes, so maybe there's multiple happening at the same time. Um, because as we can clearly see, the opposite parallel one that we saw is that we had Betterfly. I don't know, that name's kind of weird to me, but I get it because he's supposed to be the good counter to Hawkmoth. So, um, but I would say in the Miraculous World Paris one kind of answers a bit that there's parallel universes simultaneously happening other than the main miraculous universe that we all know. So I think that kind of answers it, but at the same time, the one in Timebreaker, it is kind of hard to tell. It's like, okay, so we have two ladybugs and we have two timebreakers. Hmm, how does this work? Yeah, because like, let's say, since season one came out several years ago, and this was way before Miraculous World Paris came out, so I can definitely see why it's hard to tell. This did this like did the parallel universes or something go into a different branch, or um it is definitely hard to tell. In terms of different timelines and everything, yeah, time travel is a very hard concept to grasp.
Yeah, I don't think anybody will ever understand time travel.
Yeah, because time travel is definitely hard to understand. So, like, yeah, without the context of Miraculous World Paris, since we are talking about season one, yeah, it is very hard to understand. Um, but um, but yeah. I am very curious to know what did you guys think of Reflecta, the one where Julika was like akumatized.
Let me go
Um,
back to that one.
I also really like Reflector. um, I like Reflector because it, I think a lot of people are intrigued by Julika, because she was that quiet classmate, and then like her finally getting that spotlight episode, because Reflector is pretty late in this season. I think it's like episode 18 or something, so it's on the later end of the season. um, I like the idea of Julika feeling like she doesn't have an identity, doesn't have like a face within the class. So she takes on a different identity where, like, she's wearing pink and she's more extravagant, blah blah blah, and everybody else has the same face as her, so that she never has to feel different, because if everyone has the same face, looks the same height, same heels, same everything, then she can feel a lot less alone. And I quite like that whole idea behind the episode. And I also really loved how Marinette was determined to make sure Julika is in the class photo, because the thing about photos is photos capture memories. When you look back at a photo, you are immediately transported back to that specific time. So every single photo of the class, Julika just, you know, if her hair was in the way, it's either she just wasn't in there or just something went wrong. So it always gave her negative memories. And
Mhm.
as a high school student, you don't just want to remember high school as a negative memory. Like, I certainly am glad that high school was a great experience for me, for the most part. So I just really
Every
loved how, like, Marinette understood the importance of everyone being in the photo and everyone being included. And she even organized something at the end of the episode outside of the class photo to actually have Julika have her moment. And I think it was just so sweet.
Mhm. Like for sure. I think, Marinette understands because as we all know, like in season 5, we all know that like, Marinette didn't have that many friends either. So like she kind of knew what it felt like to be excluded, like in a way, if you kind of
Right.
know what I mean. So she's like, because people who want to make other people happy don't ever want the other person to feel what they felt, and Marinette was clearly able to read Julika, be able to read her like body language, um, and everything, and she's like, it's like, and she's like, Julika needs to be a part of it because she always feels excluded, so. And you gotta admit that's one of you could say that's one of Marinette's best moments in season 1. She was actually being considerate for someone else, and she wanted to give Julika, you know, she wanted to have Julika feel included, and I think that's one of my favorite aspects about Marinette in season 1,
yeah,
in that
and just
specific.
adding on to that, I think there's either somebody that can relate to Julia, or at least someone that knows someone that went through that type of thing.
So I think it's one of my other favorite moments of Marinette, other than the Mr. Pigeon, where she explained about, you know, how she was able to prove the derby hat was hers, and then and being able to help Julika feel included, and I love that, like she wanted to make her feel. I think that's why that like Marinette has become well loved by her classmates, well, except Chloe, as we all know. Like the rest of the classmates are like very um like when you think about it, like they see how she always wants to help out others. Like I said, especially with Julika, that was one of my favorite moments because it's like, oh, it's like she really wants to make her feel included, and I love that she did that. Because I'm pretty sure they showed like flashback photos where like Max was actually covering Julika's face in the
Yeah.
previous photo. I'm just like, okay, that's not nice. Um, and then and I'm just looking at this screenshot that's pretty funny because Chloe's like holding Adrian's face. And I'm just like laughing right now at because I think they were trying to take the class photo, and of course I hate Chloe in this because I think she had spree to lock Julika in the
Yeah,
bathroom.
another reason why Chloe is a love to hate character.
I'm just like, oh gosh. I was like, no wonder. And I said, really want us to hate her for all the horrible stuff she's done. And I think in this, like Marinette was trying to stop the photographer because I think she's like, hey, for Julika, right? And that just shows that I think it just really shows Marinette's character, about like because like I said, I feel like Marinette understands what it feels like, when you feel excluded. Because remember before Alia came to the school, as we all know in season 5, she was like she didn't have really much of a friend support system as she does now, and but I think, I really like Reflecta Kumitai's villain for that. So trying to remember what happened in the Pharaoh. Uh
Oh, in the Pharaoh episode, it was Alex's brother that got akumatized. And I think he was trying to prove something historical happened. Um, I actually can't remember because that's the one episode that I barely have rewatched as well. And also at the same time, Ali is trying to figure out who Ladybug is because Ladybug accidentally drops her history textbook. So Alia pieces together that the only school that uses that specific textbook is Francois Dupont High School. So Ladybug must be in ninth grade and must go to that school. Um,
mm,
so it's just a whole like historical episode where the Pharaoh apparently Ladybug and the Pharaoh were enemies thousands of years ago. So he's trying to sacrifice Alia to bring back like Nefertiti, his wife, I think. It was just crazy. Like the episode was all over the place.
oh yeah, I remember there was like a sacrifice thing that because in that episode, and then I think Alia was caught in it because,
Yeah.
and everything. But I think what wasn't this the episode where Marinette decides to do that interview with Alia as Ladybug? I can't really remember if it was this episode or if it was a different episode.
The interview episode where what episode was that? It was probably I have no clue actually. It was either r- the mime. No, yeah, it was the mime. So at the end of the mime, that's when Ladybug decided to do the interview with um Alia. So it wasn't the Pharaoh.
Ah, okay. And yeah. Um, but I think I actually want to know your guys like opinions on Simon Says. That one.
Oh my gosh, Simon Says is a masterpiece because because they left little hints to show that Gabriel Agreste is Hawkmoth. Now I know
Yeah.
most people at the time said it was so obvious that Gabriel is Hawkmoth, but for me, it was not obvious in the slightest. I was so shocked when the collector came out and I discovered Gabriel is Hawkmoth. And I know some people are lying because back then they had so many theories who Hawkmoth could be. People were theorizing Alex's dad, people were theorizing Milen's dad at one point, and people were theorizing Gabriel. So I don't think it was that obvious it was Gabriel because as Hawkmoth, Gabriel's voice is way deeper. So I didn't put two and two together. But Simon Says, for those who did not realize it was Gabriel, like myself, I think it was just the perfect way to hint at the fact that Gabriel Agreste, he's mysterious, but he's mysterious for a reason. The fact that like
Mm,
at one point it was Hawkmoth, and then it cuts to Gabriel, but you never really piece it together until you watch
Yeah,
The
I felt the
Collector.
same way. It didn't hit me until later on that Gabriel was Hawkmoth.
Right.
Mm.
And I think with, of course, some people are obviously gonna find it obvious because it's just obvious that like we never see Gabriel aggress, so he just made the most logical sense as Hawkmoth. But from my point of view back then, I was just thinking Gabriel was just a villain in Adrian's like home life, like not a villain on the wider scheme of things. So seeing like rewatching Simon Says after so many years and thinking, wow, this episode was actually very well crafted, and also the little nuances in dialogue where Hawkmoth would be like, Gabriel Agress is not at home. You're going to be wasting your time. Why don't you go target Ladybug and Cat Noir? Blah blah blah. Even when Gabriel is like detransformed and he's talking to Ladybug and he's like, your earrings, they're so like exquisite, blah blah blah, and he tries to reach out for it and she's visibly uncomfortable. I did not realize that, oh my gosh, she's literally standing next to Hawkmoth and she doesn't realize it. And I just think I love Simon Says for that reason.
I think they were able to do it pretty well because because of the way they animated it, we see Hawkmoth and then we see Gabriel. So like in a
Right.
way, it's kind of like it was kind of not as obvious because of that. Because they're like, oh, Hawkmoth is right there. Oh, so Gabriel is right here. So I think like it threw off our suspicion because Gabriel was not in the outfit. He wasn't in his Hawkmoth disguise where it wasn't as obvious. And and like I said, he just played along, when the villain said, "Hey, bring me Gabriel Agress." He just played into it so that way it could throw suspicion that he was Hawkmoth at the same time. So I think that was kind of smart on his end, because if he didn't play along, then um it would have been more obvious to us, if you know what I mean. Because
Right.
he let himself get hit with the powers, right? And then of course being things like he's a bird.
Yeah.
So I would say that was a great way to subvert our suspicions because like I said, in one scene it shows him as Hawkmoth and then the next scene he's already Gabriel. So I think that's why that was so clever because it's like it throws off our suspicions, it subverts our suspicions, and like I said, he played along. He played
Right.
along with it
And
because, like I
also,
said, oh, sorry, go
no, you
ahead.
keep going. No.
When he, like I said, as soon as he played into it, that threw off our suspicion because, because if he didn't play along, that would give us more reason to suspect that he's Hawkmoth. So him playing along with it, letting himself get captured, and then, um, being manipulated that was given to him, then he's flapping his arms, which is the funniest animation ever. The funniest animation ever, because we're so used to Gabriel being all stoic and serious, but then when you see him flapping his arms like a bird, I'm like, that's the most hilarious thing.
It's just like every episode has a target. So like whoever gets akumatized, they're always targeting the person who upsets them. So Simon Says Gabriel was that target because he upset the Mr. Simon or whatever his actual name was. So that's why, like you said, he plays along with it. It completely subverts our suspicion because he's targeting Gabriel aggressed. So Gabriel has to kind of play along with it, and then but at the same time Hawkmoth is protecting himself, and that
Mhm.
was the smart thing about the episode and why we didn't realize that he was Hawkmoth. But then he repeats that same thing um as the Collector a couple episodes later in season 2, where he just kind of taps into another identity sort of, and he's trying to protect his supervillain persona. So he kind of tricks us, or tricks Ladybug and Cat Noir twice, and no one realizes until, a couple months down the line. You're like, wait, Gabriel actually fooled them twice. Once in the Simon Says episode, and the other in The Collector. And I just think that was so cool.
Like, like, because from our perspective, if he didn't play along, would you have already suspected he was Hawkmoth? I'm very curious.
No, absolutely not. Like
No,
the
me
shock,
either.
the shock on my face when I finally watched The Collector, when I was like, wait, he detransformed. I was like, wait, what? Gabriel is Hawkmoth? Like, what? So in like Simon Says, and this is how I know, like, I truly was not paying that much attention. I was just very blissfully unaware. Is at the end, I'm pretty sure he says, "See you next time," or "See you soon, Ladybug and Cat Noir." He says that as Gabriel. And I'm thinking, in my head, I'm thinking, wait, what do you mean, see you again next time? Like, what? But it doesn't, I'm not registering the fact that he means, oh, see you next time as Hawkmoth when I target the next akumatized villain. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that was so well crafted. Never saw it coming. Too bad for the people who who found it so obvious. I guess that wasn't fun for them, but for me, it was a complete like roller coaster, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I'm glad I didn't find it obvious.
Yeah, because like I said, that it really shows Gabriel, like it really shows Gabriel's resourcefulness because he's like, oh, because he realized when he upset the guy and he akumatized him, it's like, I gotta play along, otherwise people will get suspicious. So he played along and let himself get captured, and then so that way he falls under the influence respect. And you gotta admit, that's a really great way to hide your secret villain identity. And it was done seamlessly well in that episode. Like I said, I love it when villains like play into it so that way it subverts the audience's suspicions, and it also at the same time, because like I said in that episode, as I said, the animation also kind of played a part in that because we see a scene with Hawkmoth and then we see, so you would think they're not the same person because it's like, but then you realize in the later seasons it shows that he is Hawkmoth, and then he just has like a, I guess, secret elevator to go down into his dark lair or something. But the animation in season one in that specific episode, I think that's also what subverted our expectations, other than him just playing along and letting himself get captured by the villain and then just letting the power make him flap his arms like a bird and stuff, but he played into it, and like I said, that subverted our expectations, so that's why it wouldn't be as obvious, but and I would say that was really clever, especially, in Collector as well. Um because I think was it in Volpina that Ladybug suspected, I think?
Yeah. So she finds, well, Tiki recognizes the book, and we actually have no clue how Gabriel and Emily ended up with that book in the first place, which is another mystery that Miraculous hasn't solved. But Tiki recognizes the book, and then she immediately takes Marinette to Master Fu, and she mentions that she says, "I know you never wanted me to bring her here again," which just shows that Master Fu didn't want to, be discovered. He just wanted to kind of remain in the shadows. Um, and then Master Fu tells her like he had a theory that whoever owned the book may also be in possession of the missing Miraculouses, which he was right about the theory. Um, so she's theorizing that Adrian is Hawkmoth, but then she's like, no, that doesn't make any sense. It has to be Gabriel because he took the book from Gabriel. So Gabriel's thinking, okay, like I think what's interesting about Gabriel's thought, and I think Gabriel was very smart in the earlier seasons, which made him a very tactful villain was the fact that he was kind of one step ahead. And it goes back to my point of, from the hero's perspective, to beat the villain, you need to be the better villain. In this perspective of Gabriel, he's kind of placing his mindset in the mindset of a hero. So he's thinking, okay, if the book is lost, that means the hero is going to be on my trail, on my tail. So he's kind of thinking, okay, what are some possible theories that the heroes could have? And he immediately thinks, okay, since they have the book, um, they must think that whoever was in possession of the book might be Hawkmoth. So he shifts his mindset into the perspective of the hero to kind of think of, okay, how do I get myself out of this mess? Like, how do I protect my identity? I don't know if what I'm saying is making sense, but I just really like the fact that Gabriel tried to be the hero of his own story in order to outsmart the hero. Because they almost caught him, but he used what was like his weapon, which is obviously akumatizing, and he decided to akumatize himself so that he could get them off his tail. And I think that was so smart.
Like, but like for sure, like I know um when it's pretty interesting how like Marinette did piece it together. I don't know if she pieced it in Volpina or if she pieced it in Collector, but I know she suspected it's got to be Gabriel Agreste. And she's like, haven't you noticed he hasn't, got out of his house and um and he's so mysterious. He's not even out and about, and it's like that's a good point. That's a good point. You have to admit, because I think like I know in a later episode, I think it was in season 2, because they have mentioned that Gabriel never got out of the house ever since the wife, quote unquote, disappeared. So I think that was a really good lead, that Marinette was able to piece that, oh yeah, and she's like, I have my suspicions that it may be Gabriel Agreste to be Hawkmoth. And the reasoning makes sense because when you in their perspective as Marinette as Ladybug, wouldn't you have suspected Gabriel Agreste? Because if you
Right.
notice, that dude never gets out of the house, which is very abnormal when you think about it, because most people will start to get suspicious of why a person's not going out of their house, especially since he's high profile. He's like a high profile fashion designer, and and as I said when we did episode 1, how is it he's able to do work when he just works in the house, as a fashion designer? Because if you're a fashion designer, you should be out in the studio, you know, just like how in the actual Miraculous studio. But in the actual TV show, he's just in the house all the time, and it's like this is very unrealistic. But then again, like I said, this is a great lead that Marinette had because she's like, I've noticed, like, if you notice, like, we've seen that Gabriel doesn't go out. He just has his assistant Natalie. Like, remember in the Mr. Pigeon, he was just communicating through an iPad. He wasn't physically there to see the hats or anything.
Yeah.
So I think, like like I said, if like you said, Gabriel was like to be the hero, you have to play the hero better. Similar, it's kind of like the reverse coin of to be a
To beat
villain,
the
you
villain.
to beat the villain, you got to be the better villain. He kind of psychologically reverse psychology. It's like, okay, to be the better hero is to be, right? But in a way it was a form of manipulation, um and everything. So like I said, I love the way Simon says in terms of the animation of subverting our expectations, like of like making it seem like Hawkmoth and Gabriel are two different people, because you see Hawkmoth in one scene and then it immediately goes to Gabriel, and it's like, and then when you kind of look back on it now that we know this knowledge, that Gabriel is Hawkmoth, it's like, how is he in two places at the same time? um, but yeah, I think that's what Simon Says did amazingly well. Like it, like from from retrospect, it's actually pretty obvious now because now we have this knowledge that Gabriel was just playing along. So like once he played along, it threw off our suspicions. So I think that's what Simon Says did as an amazing job in that episode. Um, so that's definitely where Gabriel was actually pretty smart. Just play along and no one will suspect. Um, oh yeah, do you guys want to talk about the origins episodes?
Yes. I think that's like the best way to conclude season 1.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, this might be a very hot take, but I think the origins episode is the best episode of Miraculous Ladybug, period. Like, as a whole. And it's
I'm
crazy
curious
because
as
it's
to why
season
you
1.
feel that way.
I just feel like the origins episode was just perfect in almost every sense. I love the idea of going back to see how Adrian and Marinette got their miraculouses and why they are Ladybug and Cat Noir. For Marinette, it's quite obvious because her creativity, her struggles, and her challenges just make her so equipped to be a hero. Um, and just the fact that despite going through a lot herself, she's still willing to help other people, which is why, as weird as Master Fu's like test of courage was, and quite risky for that matter, I think he should have made the test a little bit more difficult. So yeah, but I understood the nuances behind it, so it's fine. I just like the idea like of Marinette rushing to school and she still decides to help Master Fu despite everything, which shows that, oh, like this girl, it makes a good hero. She just needs to realize it. And as for Adrian, I like the idea of the fact that he was wanting to go to school, um, and his kindness and his ability to help someone was his ticket to freedom. Because if he had never helped Master Fu and just kept going into the school, he would not be free. Like, let's be honest, he probably would have still been stuck at home, um, outside of school. Like, maybe he might have been allowed to go to school, but outside of that, he'd still would have been stuck at home. But, you know, showing kindness to Master Fu, someone he did not know at all, was his ticket and his gateway to freedom. And I also like the idea of Marinette having to kind of sit and really think about what she wants for herself, because everybody else sees her as like, she didn't see her own potential basically. So she kind of had to be put in a situation where she was like, oh, it has to be me, like I'm the one to that has to solve this problem, and she does so. um and the fact that she was so close to giving the miraculous to Alia, but the fact that it wound up back in her possession just shows that the miraculous chose its owner. And I
Mm.
just really love the nuances behind that, and I just also love I love everything about the origins episode. I also love the confrontation um at the end. Well, two confrontations actually. So she first realizes that Hawkmoth is trying to gaslight them, and she's like, no, hello, you are the villain. Do not try to spin the narrative." As soon as Cat Noir encourages her and she hears Hawkmoth trying to stir up a different narrative, she's like, let's not reverse the roles around here. And she completely just obliterates him. Like, I love how Marinette, I think Marinette is the embodiment of like, you have it within you very deep down. You just need a trigger to bring it out of you. Like, like the only difference between the person you are right now and the person who you want to become, who is a higher version of yourself, is just you. Like the only bridge between the two versions of yourself, the person you are right now and the higher version of yourself, is the fact that you need to take action and you need to realize that you do have it within you to be that person. And it's like embodied very well when she finally stands up to Chloe and she realizes, listen, like Chloe does not have any power over me. The only reason why she has that is because I let her and I let myself play into that victim mentality. The minute she realizes like her own power, Chloe is completely nothing to Marinette, and she's really able to just stand up for herself and understand her worth. And of course, my favorite part of the Origins episode is the umbrella scene. By far the best scene in Miraculous Ladybug, hands down.
Yes, like for sure. Like I think what was interesting, I think it played it very well too, because like when you think about it, like we all of us here know that Marinette and Agent had different upbringings, and of course they're like completely different people, and the qualities they were pretty much paired with actually helped them to encourage them. Like Tiki's like, you are Ladybug, the hero that everyone needs. Because Marinette does not like she doesn't have that much confidence. And Tiki gives her that encouragement and support. And of course, meanwhile, with isolated from everyone. So he really have a social life. He's not allowed to go out or anything. And then until that fateful day, he actually helped Matt Fu. He helped him up, and then he was given the cat miraculous, which Plague is like, and then, Adrian vents out. It's like, how can I be a superhero if I'm always stuck at home? And then Plague is like, the decision is yours. He's like saying, you have to choose to get out, like, um, and when you think about it, Plague kind of gives him the encouragement, like, if you really want to be free, you have to do that yourself, you know. And in a way, Adrian has to disobey his dad because of it, but in a way, like I said, you could say Plague and Tiki were like the best things that helped them with their issues. Marinette has confidence issues, so Tiki is definitely her encouragement and support, as a Kwame. And I think that's what was interesting about it, like I just want to know what you guys think, if the Kwames were like perfectly matched for Agent and Marinette.
I honestly think they are.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Adrian, you don't really realize it much in season one, but you definitely realize it along the series that Adrian kind of needs a Kwame that's very like blunt and just straight to the point, because Adrian doesn't is very sheltered. So being soft with Adrian isn't going to get him quite far. You just need someone that just tells you, look, you got to take your own freedom. Like you can't be sitting around at home waiting your dad to change. You just have to do it yourself. And Plague is like that. If Adrian got Tiki, yes, they'd get along well for the most part, but I don't think much would be accomplished because I feel like Tiki plays things safe, whereas Plague is
Mhm.
very much the opposite. And with Marinette, we have seen instances where Plague and Marinette like bond very well, but because of the nature of Marinette, she overthinks, she gets anxious quite quickly. Plague
Mm.
would definitely amp up that anxiety, so she definitely works better with Tiki. But
Yeah,
I
like
also love how in the Origins episode, like even though Tiki does encourage Marinette, ultimately it comes down to Marinette needing to encourage herself. So it's not always like, oh, Tiki is just doing the work for Marinette. Like Tiki did her part and realized I have to sit back and wait for Marinette to realize it for herself.
hmm yes, because like what about your thoughts, Kevin, about like the pairs between Marinette?
Okay, the pair between Marinette and I take a cut off on me for the rest.
Oh, Marinette and Tiki and Adrian and Plaid. in terms of the
Yeah,
parent.
I think they fit very, very well together, and I couldn't think of a better pairing than the Miraculous that the characters were paired up with.
Because in a way, Plague teaches Adrian to take risks, like,
Yeah,
but it's a more like to help him be free because Plague already gets the message right away in the origins episode. Adrian just vents out, "How am I supposed to be a superhero when I'm always stuck in the house?" And then Plague just bluntly just says, and he's like, "You have to choose to free yourself," you know.
and he is right.
So, like, when you think about it, Adrian needed that bluntness because remember, his father has always been controlling towards him. So
Yep,
Adrian's always been obedient. So that's why Plague is kind of like, you got to take that risk, man. If you want to be a hero, you have to take that risk. Meanwhile, like if the roles were reversed, like you said, Guy, Marinette would be way too anxious and she would be way more afraid to take risks. Meanwhile, with like Adrian, he needed that in his life because he's been so isolated, and everything. So Adrian needed that. He needed a Kwame to help to encourage him to take the risk, even if it means disobeying his. But
agreed.
and it left an impact on Adrian. And same with Tiki with the impact on Marinette. Because it's like Adrian, you could say that he doesn't really need the extra confidence. He's just isolated because they both have different issues, like personal issues. With Adrian, it was isolation. So he needed a Kwame to help to encourage him to take the risk, even if it means disobeying his father. And then with Marinette, she just needs more confidence, like a confident, like someone to support her and tell her, "Hey, you got this. You can do this." So I think the pairings were just perfect in,
That's also why Adrian and Marinette are like made for each other, especially in a dynamic sort of way. They complete each other.
yeah, like the umbrella scene was just chef's kiss right there. Like
Oh
it
yeah,
It was just chef's kiss, and I kinda like how Master Fu was there and they didn't even notice him, which I'm questioning to this day. Was it they didn't notice that he was standing there, or at least a person was standing there, which is, like, the funniest thing, but I kinda like how, Nino was also another support that he needed, that Adrian needed, because remember, Chloe decided to be a butt and put gum in the seat that Marinette was about to sit on, and Marinette assumed it was Adrian that did when it wasn't really him. And then Nino's like, "Why don't you just talk to Marinette? You have to talk to her." And he's like, "Dude, you want to make friends, right?" He's like, "Why don't you just go talk to Marinette and tell her about the chewing gum?" And then, of course, Nino's like, "Just be yourself." And then so Adrian actually followed that advice, you know? And then, of course, that cute little, like, scene with the umbrella. And he actually admits that, like, it's like to tell you the truth. And he's like, "I'm being truthful. I was just trying to take the chewing gum off your seat." And then he's like, "I've never been to school before. I've never had friends. It's all so new to me." And you can see how sincere it was, you know, and I think, I think the Origins episode just really encapsulates what Agent and Marinette really needed in their lives at the same time.
I
Like,
like the idea of Nino telling Adrian to just be himself, and then Adrian immediately just like uncovers all his layers and is just straight up vulnerable with Marinette and just extremely honest with a girl he only just met. Like there was no need to fully say, "Oh yeah, like I'm lonely, I'm this and that, I don't have friends, like this is new to me." But being himself and gaining Marinette's trust meant that he had to be vulnerable. And I think that's why Marinette actually ends up falling for him because I get the idea that Marinette doesn't really like people who are not authentic and are kind of, fake. Um, and we know it's like age, like we know the whole idea of like Adrian Agreste being a supermodel, son of a famous fashion designer. So everyone has this image and idea of Adrian that they've created in their own head, even Marinette. So when Nino tells Adrian just be yourself, he's really just telling Adrian, uncover all your layers, be vulnerable, tell her the truth, and she's bound to listen to you. And she did. And yes, it might have been scary in that moment, but we don't know how it felt for Adrian because uh we don't really get like a monologue of like what his thoughts were when in that specific moment. But I would assume it's quite like scary just telling a stranger like, "Oh yeah, like I'm a lonely person. I've never had friends before." Because you never know what someone could say about you in that moment. They could be judging you for all you know. But he took that risk, and the risk paid off because he ended up gaining a friend
Mhm.
who kind of saw him for him, and that's when Marinette really started to like fall for him. And I think why she fell for him was because he was so authentic, he was very honest, and she realized that he's very kind because he didn't have to take the gum off her seat. And there have been, like, we know, Marinette had been bullied for 4 years now, and in the flashback we saw in like Derision, which is season 5, we saw that Marinette was very isolated. So when Chloe would do something, nobody would step in and nobody would kind of intervene and help her. They just kind of let Marinette do it. But the fact that this new kid comes along and his immediate thought is to remove the gum off her seat, she's not used to that because she's just used to everyone, like turning a blind eye and pretending like they don't see what Chloe's doing. So she's like, oh, this person's different. He's actually not a complicit in Chloe's, shenanigans. And I think that's why she fell for him.
Mhm. Like, I yeah, like it just really encapsulates everything for sure that it was um you know and 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 when I saw that when I saw that I was just like, oh yeah, it's really going to as soon as that infamous line is like Flag is like, oh, looks like we already got lovebirds. Flag, she's just a friend. I'm like, oh no. And then And then, of course, we all know the gag. She's just a friend. We all know that phrase will become the gag in memes. Miraculous, like, and everything. So, I think the origins was like pretty interesting. They're both coming on their own. And with like encouragement from Tiki and Plag, in a way, they both helped them like come out of their shells when you think about it. Because Adrian has always been stuck in isolation, and he never really had anyone like tell him to if you really want to get out of the house, go do it. It's and Adrian, being the son that he is, he doesn't want to disobey, you know. But at the same time, he needed that because in his situation, wouldn't you go crazy if you were always stuck in the house?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. I don't know how he did it because in that situation, anyone would have just immediately developed a mental health issue because being stuck in the house for a prolonged amount of time generally, like physically and mentally, isn't good for someone's health. So, yeah, that's insane.
so when you think about it, Plague was like the best thing that happened to Adrian because Plague gave him that encouragement. Just take the risk, man. If you really want to get out of the house, go and do it. Like go and do it. Don't just the don't just wait don't just wait for your father to be like willing to change his mind, which I highly doubt. So Plague was definitely something Adrian needed, and same with like Tiki to Marinette. Like Tiki always has to give her the encouragement. And like you said, Guy, there are times where like Tiki will give the advice and she's um like okay, I just need it's like I'll back off and wait until that Marinette needs to realize it herself. So I think that's what was interesting. And any last thoughts on the Origins episode 7, Keith?
No,
Um,
I would have to agree with Dee. Like, there's some of the best. It was just nice to see how everything began too.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I agree. I think the episode was the best in the series.
Yeah, like I kind of found it weird that it was the last two episodes of season one, even though chronologically it should have been the first two.
I think they
Like,
just wanted to go for the whole like special episode at the end because you know how the season finales are like the specials. So season one is the origin special, season two is Heroes Day special, season three is Battle of the Miraculous special, blah blah blah. I think they just decided on that formula and then stuck with it. So yeah.
mm, yeah, so Origins was definitely a solid episode. It's it set up the entire story, how Agent and Marinette became Ladybug and Cat Noir, and it set up the structure, of them balancing their school life and their superhero things. And yeah, so Origins was definitely a solid one. And being able to watch the two-part episode for that, so that was definitely one of my favorite episodes of season one. And unfortunately, we have to end this live stream. It was great to talk to you guys about the season one episodes of Miraculous. They're just so
Yeah, it was nice just to go back on it. It's been a while since I've seen the episodes too.
And being able to talk about the lessons they teach, how they crafted each of the villains, how we get to know a bit about them, and before they get akumatized. And of course, they already set up the structure of how the show will go, and it makes it easier to follow. Like no matter what episode you start with, you kind of get the premise of, oh, okay, this is what happens at the beginning, and then of course the akumatization, and then they have to defeat the akumatized villain, save the day, and then solve the problem. um But yeah, I want to thank you, Guy, for being here again. It's always so much fun to talk to you about Miraculous.
Thank you for having me. I feel the same way as well.
Yeah, so like it was just so much fun to talk about our memories, nostalgic memories of the season one episodes for Miraculous. And um but hopefully you guys enjoy this, because I do have an end of the year live stream this Thursday where I'm going to be with my Rebel buddy for this, and we're going to talk about our goals for next 2024, and then we're going to be also um just talk, chat, hang out, and then also play games. And you are more than welcome to join us, Ski, if you want.
Perfect. I'll let you know.
Yeah, so I want to thank you guys for those who tuned in to this second episode of the Lucky Charm podcast. And it was great to have you. We wanted to have you for the first episode, but you were busy and everything. So you guys look forward to the end of the year live stream this Thursday at 5 p.m. PT, 8 p.m. ET. So may you all have a wonderful few weeks before 2024.
You too.